All right, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Movie Battleground, and I'm back on this series. You can say for the most part, I've been pretty much MIA since I lost the title match, sadly. But I'm back here hosting now, hopefully getting a bit more active part as an admin and to this game in general. But enough about me. We have a very exciting match. Two newbies going at it for what I think is going to be a great match. They both have incredible knowledge and great debate skills, I would assume. And I'm excited to see newbies in this league, and I'm excited to see what they can do with these great questions we have. So first, we have Brooklyn Vail. How you doing, Brooklyn?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Very excited to compete against Jeffs. This is actually like the third time that we have competed against each other within a matter of like 2 months. So this is our first match. Myself and Ed beat her and Jen in the WW or the Throw Trivia Team Tournament, and then in Jack of All Trivia's IG, she handed me a clean knockout in Intergeekdom. So this is the rubber match. Whoever wins this one goes 2-1.
Well, I'm definitely going to be very excited to see who gets that one up on the other. And Jessica Morgan's here. And how are you feeling?
Oh yeah, we're fine. We're perfectly fine. Totally normal.
Well,
Oh, okay.
looks
I'm
like
nervous
they're
as
ready.
hell.
Don't be nervous. It's internet debate. You got this. So, without any further ado, I can explain some of the rules for a little bit. We have 4 main rounds to the game where they'll be asked a question. They'll have an opening and closing statement and 5 minutes in the middle to argue amongst each other of which movie is or which answer is best. And the competitors are allowed one 1 minute extension to the round. They can choose to use it on whatever of the main 4 rounds. If they don't want to use it, that's fine. And if they both want to use it on the same round, well, we're gonna have a long round, I guess. And we did a coin toss since these are rookies to the league to see who gets to choose when they go first. And Brooklyn won the coin toss, choosing heads. So, what 2 questions would you like to go first on?
I would like to start with question 4, the DreamWorks animated question, and then I want to follow that with question 2.
Now, just a heads up, that means you do your opening statement first and stuff like that. We're still going in
Correct.
the order.
Yep.
All right. So 4 and 2. All right. Well, let's get into this match. And question number 1, Jessica will be starting this question. If you could recast any character in the X-Men movies, who would you recast and why? And Jessica, your opening statement, please.
Okay, it pains me to say it, but one of the main cast members of the original X-Men trilogy that needs to be replaced is also one of the few Oscar winners in that list. She does not have the range or even the ability to put on the required accent to be able to effectively portray this role, and I am kicking out Halle Berry as Storm, and we are replacing her with the far more capable and far more regal Miss Angela Bassett.
Wow. That's a big one right off top. And Brooklyn, your opening statement.
All right. So the choice that I made, I believe, if you make this change, this solidifies the newer trilogy of X-Men First Class, X-Men Days Future Past, and Apocalypse as being one of the great trilogies of comic book history. I am taking Vincent D'Onofrio over Oscar Isaacs for the role of Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse. Oscar, I believe, was brought in just to draw in a casual crowd. And I believe that D'Onofrio, with his stature and his voice and the roles that we've seen him do, i.e. Daredevil, would fit that role much better and fill a massive hole in that film.
It's a big change right there, and definitely could be different to the universe. So now we're going to give 5 minutes to the field. You guys battle it out for the 5 minutes. Now, just to make sure, does anyone want to use an extension on this round?
No, I think we're okay.
I'm good.
All right. So 5 minute round here, and closing statements will be at the end. And starting now.
All right, so my problem with Angela Bassett as Storm is that I believe that when they initially had the X-Men pitched to them, that they were trying to have it as like a club that has been formed within the last couple of years. And I feel like with Angela Bassett, that role only works as if they have been around for like 10 plus years and they have that experience. She would be great to have as an older version maybe, but I don't think that she fits in with that role. With Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman, I feel like she is too similar to the wiser of Professor X.
But that's actually why she works as Storm, because as we can tell by the end of the third movie, she is Professor X now. The plot holes with the third movie notwithstanding. God, that thing's a shitfest. But that being said, if she's going to be the one taking over the Academy after Charles's death, she needs to be pretty well on par with him. Most of the other main characters in the X-Men movies, at least the first three their talents are completely overshadowing Halle Berry in every possible way.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised with this choice because I feel like the way you were talking it up, I thought you were going to go with Anna Paquin, someone else for Rouge. But to get to whatever the hell her name was. Vincent D'Onofrio over Oscar Isaacs is definitely the better fit because with Oscar Isaacs, he wasn't very convincing as a villain. With Vincent D'Onofrio, you have this presence and you have almost this douchiness that you really need with Apocalypse, similar to how Megatron has been portrayed in some of the animated realms, where he's sophisticated and he has a plan. With Oscar Isaacs, I found with his role, it was very very emotional based, and he doesn't fit that grand stature. Like when X-Men Apocalypse was announced, I was kind of like, oh, this should be really cool. Like, there'll be big events and whatnot. And I feel like of that movie, Apocalypse was definitely the part that was let down. So when you bring in somebody like Vincent D'Onofrio, where you've seen him in Daredevil as Wilson Fisk, who has a plan, where he'll be able to take down the X-Men like individually. I feel like that is the better fit for that route that they're going.
God, I'm trying to find my words.
I mean, again, to reiterate with Halle Berry, I feel like she was great because she would have had with throughout those three films, she had room to grow. With Angela Bassett, I don't think she doesn't fit that three film tier, that 3 film arc. Like, yes, she is great as that person to take over. But how do you have her as this like young almost naive member of Xavier's Academy in the first movie? I don't know if she.
I believe they kind of tried to more play Halle Berry as the more naive Storm because of her poor acting ability, and it took her 3 movies just to even try to get even halfway to where Angela Bassett would have already been starting at.
You don't think she tries to steal the camera, much like how that first X-Men trilogy was very much centered around Logan? I feel like she's almost too big of a star at that time, where it's like I don't know how well she fits in a supporting role. You also have to rewrite the script to make it more about Storm. Like you look at you look at somebody like Kelsey Grammer in X-Men 3. That is a big name that could have easily been overtaken that film. But he was such a great side piece, and they recognized where Beast was in that trilogy because he was only introduced in that film, and he was a great side piece and a great supporting performance. I don't know if you can do that with Angela Bassett, where she is just a side piece to Professor X and Magneto and Logan.
20 seconds.
And obviously with Famke Janssen's character, Jean Grey, where a lot of like X2 and X3 they kind of center around
Right.
her. So I don't know if she
Time.
could be a good supporting.
All right. Definitely some strong arguments by both of you. And we're going to wrap this up with a closing statement, starting with Jessica. And that'll be the wrap. And then Brooklyn.
Okay, Vincent D'Onofrio may have had the literally the larger frame because Oscar Isaac's is fucking tiny as hell. I don't know why they put somebody so small as Apocalypse. But I feel like he would have just gone so far to comic book villain territory that we would have literally gotten Ivan Ooze instead of him just looking like Ivan Ooze. Storm is supposed to be a princess and queen. She should be high-minded. She should be regal. She should actually have a compelling accent instead of whatever drivel was coming out of Halle Berry's mouth. Storm needs to be Angela Bassett.
Do I start?
Yeah, Brooklyn, your closing statement.
I mean, you pretty well put the nail in the coffin for me. You said yourself, Oscar Isaac was too small of a person to play Apocalypse. And if you're gonna go that queen kind of royalty route that you want to go, Storm, you need to bring in her man. You need to bring in Black Panther. And they don't have at the time. I don't believe they had the rights to do that. So with her being royal without Black Panther, comes off as kind of douchey. But yeah, you're right. Vincent D'Onofrio has the build. He has that presence about him. It's this great stature that he has and this great voice that he would now be able to evoke that great performance that we need from N7 And I'll end it there.
All right. Okay. Definitely a great bound by both of you. What I found interesting was a lot of times a point would be made and it would kind of be argued very well by the other, and that kind of went back and forth for most of this match. Like a lot of the points were just thrown back and forth, which I really enjoyed hearing that with this round. But I think I heard stronger arguments about what it would do to the movie more so than what it would do to the character in Brooklyn's arguments. Just a little more so because I think Jessica did a great job of playing why Storm would be better, more so than the film. But I am going to give it to Brooklyn because I think he argued how the film would be more improved with the character, more so just than the character being improved. But great round by both of you right there.
Thank
you. Now, on to question 2, and this is a great question. Multiple answers could be used. This guy is amazing. He's a legend, and it is, what is the best Bill Murray movie? And we're starting with Brooklyn on this one.
So I am going with one of his newer performances in St. Vincent. 2004 film, directed by Theodore Melpi, also did Hidden Figures. That got some great Oscar buzz. Bill Murray is transformed. He has a great Queen's accent. When you first hear him in the film, he is almost unrecognizable, and some of his Bill Murray isms are subtly added into his role that keeps the role familiar, but also evolves as he's grown throughout the years, where it isn't stale and it isn't typecast.
And Jessica, your opening statement.
All right. Brooklyn went a little more modern. Go figure. I went a little bit further back. Also go figure. I'm going closer to the beginning of his movie career. In a cute little movie about a man who loses everything important to him in the span of a day and decides, you know what, screw it. Me and my best bud, we're gonna fucking go join the army. I'm talking 1981's Stripes.
Well, good opening statements. We're going to be starting the round. 5 minutes again. Does anyone care to use their extension for this round?
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Here we go.
All right, so here we go. The question again that was brought to us, Jess, was the best Bill Murray movie, not the best Bill Murray performance. Well, yes, I'm sure Bill Murray has a great performance in Stripes. I think that the St. Vincent movie as a whole is great. You have a great supporting cast with Melissa McCarthy as the mom who just moved into the side, has this bitter divorce with her husband, Naomi Watts, who plays this Russian stripper, which I thought was going to be very cheesy at first, but she has a great character arc as she is carrying Bill Murray's child. Chris O'Dowd as the brother in the school. He carries that narrative of sainthood and what it's all about. I thought he was a great kind of voice of reason and very balanced character. And then Jaden Labour making his film debut as Oliver. And he was a great fit to that film because they showed that arc of missing a father figure that I feel like is great. That was great for Bill Murray's character because he got to show that rawness and that kind of dickishness of that older generation that really affected Oliver, where he was taught as a pacifist by his father, which really resembles the new generation as we are.
Now that's all fair and all, but when we want Bill Murray, we want the man that is an anarchic slob, a celebration of all that is irreverent, reckless, foolhardy, undisciplined, and occasionally scatological. And sorry I had to read that directly off of my notes, but that is a quote from Roger Ebert's review of Stripes. That's exactly what people think of when they think of a Bill Murray performance. And, movie Jesus there said it himself.
But you can see that performance in so many of his films, like Groundhog Day, Ghostbusters, like Scrooge. Like he plays kind of that same thing throughout the 80s, and I mean it's great, but eventually it gets old. And this one here, you get to see subtleness in that, where you see him like dancing in the kitchen, where he has that wheelchair race with Oliver. But he transforms his performance, where he's a dick and he's blunt. And he gives it a sort of realism to Oliver's character, teaches him like the basicness of how to fight back, and has this unexpected turn of this kind and caring person when you meet who turns out to be his wife that he's caring for in a senior home where he suffers through dementia. So it gives him a motivation, and I feel like with the storyline itself, even the way that this was shot, this was definitely a Wes Anderson influence, just in terms of the color palette and like just the way that they were shooting it. It was almost symmetrical, but I feel like Bill Murray fits that role so well because of his work with Wes Anderson, and where he is able to evoke his style into certain scenes that really draws out that movie.
I grant you the little subtleties, but Bill Murray should never be subtle. Bill Murray basically is comedy, especially now that we've lost the great Robin. He is comedy in comedy movies. If I want to pick up a Bill Murray movie, I want to see him at his best, at his peak. And traipsing off into Czechoslovakia in an armored APC that looks like a freaking RV to go rescue his friends that have been captured by the Russians.
1 minute.
Is probably about the funniest that I have ever seen Bill Murray act.
All right, so but you can see you've seen these comedic kind of war films with ones like MASH and like Forrest Gump that has that kind of that comedic tone to Vietnam. People want to see comedic actors take a more serious roles. Like you mentioned Robin Williams. You look at him in like 1 Hour Photo, you see Jim Carrey in like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. People want to go see these comedic actors take the serious roles, and I believe it's that risk that Bill Murray takes when it's changing his dialect to a very, very thick Queen's accent, and then also having a quote stroke in the film where he has to change it up once again. It's great in terms of his performance and
time. Sorry about that. And
Sorry.
all right, now we're going to go to the closing statements. We are starting with Brooklyn on this one, and give us your closing statement.
While I'm sure that Stripes is a great comedy of the '80s, I feel that that has gotten lost in what was a great decade of comedies. I feel like out of his comedy films, now this Stripes probably not the better one to pick. You look at films like Caddyshack and Ghostbusters. In this film, Bill Murray takes a risk, and that risk gives off a huge reward. This got a lot of buzz. Should have got some Oscar nominations, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. You again, a great supporting cast: Melissa McCarthy, Naomi Watts, Chris O'Dowd, Jada Lieberman having a great debut performance as this kid who starts off as a weak pacifist, somebody who will fight for what is right.
And Jessica, your closing thoughts.
All right. The Bill Murray movies that Brooklyn posed that he believes are better aren't actually fully Bill Murray movies. Bill Murray is the star of Stripes. Believe me, Harold Ramis is just along for the motherfucking ride on that one. And I'm pretty sure that's where it started getting a little bit bitter. But to see Bill Murray sit there and try to pull an all-nighter with all of his troops to try to actually learn what they were supposed to do in time for their basic training graduation and then completely oversleep their graduation ceremony left me in tears. It's gotta be Stripes.
All right. Bill Murray sure is a great actor. Wow, just looking at his performances throughout the years. But another good round by both of you. Another good back and forth I think you guys are having for the most part. I enjoyed Jessica's points a lot about how this is one that she would watch for the most. This was like the one she would watch, all the effort Bill Murray put into this. And the fact that this is the funniest might have been, but I think for the most part, with all the details of the cast, the story elements, the accents give, the tonage of the film, and all the things that added to the movie of this. And I'm someone who, when the question is best Bill Murray movie, I count anything that the actor's in. I lost a match on a subjective thing like that, and I don't like that kind of ruling or anything like that. So I count it's definitely a Bill Murray movie if he's in it, and he's a big role in that film. But just the overall arguments, I think, more towards the side of the film, every aspect of it, the performance he gave, even if he was funnier in Stripes and maybe Bill Murray was a bit stronger performance-wise, I think it was argued that St. Vincent was the better movie. So the second question is also going to go to Brooklyn on this one. And that leads us to question 3, which is a very interesting one. Question that I don't know if I could give an answer to, but worst Johnny Knoxville movie, excluding the Jackass movies. And Jessica, you're going to be starting with this one, and not saying some bad words on the great Johnny Knoxville, the thespian of our time.
Alrighty.
So your opening statement.
When you said worst Johnny Knoxville movie, I immediately heard my father's voice in the back of my head. Oh my God, I cannot believe they made this shit-ass piece of crap movie. It was one of those, literally ruined his childhood. And I'm going to have to go with 2005's Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for sure. And Brooklyn, your opening statements?
All right, so I'm going with 2005's The Ringer. To put it very short and sweet, try and pitch this film today. A guy frauding his way to the Special Olympics, making fun of mentally challenged people, faking his way just so he can make some money. Try and pitch that today in this year.
Both guess 2005 wasn't the best year for Johnny Knoxville, it seems. But we're gonna have 5 minutes up. Does anyone want to use their extension?
Yeah.
Let's not talk about these movies any longer. So 5 minutes on the clock starting now.
All right, so let's start with the Dukes of Hazzard. Definitely not a bad film. Like, yeah, you're gonna get these guys that are like, oh, it ruined the original theme of what Dukes of Hazzard was. But with these reboots and these rehashes, you have to take somewhat of a newer approach to the film. And I feel like they did great. Jessica Simpson was kind of cool in that. Sean William Scott. Definitely they went for that adult, raunchier kind of tone, and I feel like that kind of worked. In The Ringer, you take this bogus approach of somebody who is that's faking his way through a mental disability just so he can make some money, and it's just bogus. This film took 7 years to make. It's behind the Farrelly brothers, which I don't understand why they would try to make a film like this. You have Katherine Heigl in here, who's just a bore in anything with the exception of Knocked Up. This actually sets the record for the highest drop from a Friday to a Saturday. I mean that's gotta set a kind of a precedence into how bad this film is. Once again, never cracked the top five. Whereas Dukes of Hazzard, I believe, had some box office success, and had some great yucks for the audience that it was trying to appeal to.
There are literally two redeeming qualities to the Dukes of Hazzard movie, and that's Sean William Scott in still his worst role of his career, and Willie Nelson, who is literally just playing Willie Nelson. And to the whole plot and premise of The Ringer, fucking Simpsons did it first. South Park. Fuck, I'm thinking of the South Park episode Simpsons already did it. Shit. But we're talking about a TV show that pretty much just existed for car chase sequences. And then you want to put in this hackneyed plot of Burt Reynolds trying to take over Hazard County? Like, this is even Burt Reynolds' worst performance, and I've seen The Longest Yard.
I think that's a generational thing, because I actually like the Longest Yard. I feel like that is an okay performance. But the point that I reiterate again, could you do this movie? Could you do The Ringer right now in 2018? I want to make a film about somebody who fakes his way through mental disability, so that he can make some money. That film does not leave the board whatsoever, and that like, even this film getting made, like, it only made $40 million worldwide. Definitely not the cash cow that they hoped it to be. And if South Park did it first, props to them. They go for that style, and they go to piss off people. With movies, I don't think you can really do that as much, because you are trying to attract to a wider audience where they're trying to buy tickets.
I mean, you couldn't even make the Dukes of Hazzard today.
You definitely
could. The Confederate flag on
the
General Lee. You can't even make that movie anymore. Because if you want to take do you remember what happened in America when they tried to take the Confederate flag off of the General Lee and all the toys in America? Oh my God, it was hellfire and fury.
But you could definitely not have that, though. Like, you could definitely do like a stoner comedy about the Dukes of Hazzard, and you could reference it. A very fourth wall breaking fit to that film, where it's like, oh, hey, where's the Confederate flag? Yeah, they're gonna protest us if we didn't. So we had to. This is the one thing that we had to take off just to get it going. I think that's a small sacrifice that you would definitely make in order to see this film get done again. Once again, I think Dukes of Hazzard didn't take itself too seriously, which it didn't really need to, especially when they're going for that sort of comedy approach. And with The Ringer, it appeases to one demographic, and it was really the year that I saw it. Like, I was I was 11, and at the
Dukes
time,
of Hazzard only appeals to one demographic, and that's the demographic that like to see Jessica Simpson's boobs.
no, that's like 20 to 30-year-olds. 20 to like college kids. This like The Ringer literally appeals to like 12-year-old boys who have no moral sense, who have no moral sense of humor, who haven't grown to really appreciate the adult humor that is great.
Wow, I think that was a very good round, showing me that those are two movies that I probably should not check out in my viewing time, and just. Yeah, these closing statements I'm sure are going to be very strong and bringing home about why your movie is the worst. And we're starting with Jessica, closing statement.
Okay, the Dukes of Hazzard movie did not ever need to exist. Once you take the Southern charm out of Bo and Luke Duke, you get the reboot that they tried to do of the Dukes of Hazzard on TV. There is exactly 2 even halfway decent actors in this movie, and one of them is just playing himself. You have a completely nonsensical plot. Like, at least there is a coherent plot in The Ringer. There is no coherency to the Dukes of Hazzard plot. And there is no reason for Johnny Knoxville to really ever get in front of a camera again unless somebody's kicking him in the testicles.
Indeed. Brooklyn, your final thoughts.
I think our things cancel out where mine might have mine might have a better narrative but a shittier concept, where yours has a better concept but a shittier narrative. I think that cancels out. But once again, with The Ringer, like, this took 7 years to make. Dukes of Hazzard, like, your stoner comedy approach can definitely be made again. This was an atrocity. This film does not age well. When I first saw it, I loved it, and now as a mature adult, I hate this film. And I told myself that if this was a trick question, I would actually concede the point, because I was not going to defend somebody pretending to be mentally disabled. I'll end it there.
This is a tough one to judge. I think great points were made in this round for sure. I really love Jessica's thoughts about how it ruined her father's childhood, just being a fan of the show and what they did to it. Both of these movies seem to be offensive, poorly made, so-and-so, not great films in many ways, shapes, and forms. And I think they were argued amazingly. And like I said, I'm not going to watch either of these movies. So good job for both of you on that part. Some arguments that were strong was the could not work today. I don't think either of them could work today for the most part, but it doesn't matter. It's not for today. It's when they came out, and it's which one is the worst movie. And you said yourself that I think the two kind of cancel each other out, the plot versus substance. But even if the plot is offensive and terrible, if the substance of the film is at least a little bit better, and the overall watching of it, with Dukes of Hazzard having no plot, and the audience that it went for was like the fans of the show, like she said, and her father absolutely hated it and has ruined his childhood. And I think those points together, I will give the point to Jessica on this one for how no plot and the demographic appeal to was like sleazy dirtbags, and even 12-year-olds like appealing to a movie. Everyone is 12 at some point and that kind of stuff, like you said it even yourself. So this point I am giving to Jessica, leaving the game at 2-1. So the next point is going to be very important going into the speed round, and we will be having a speed round. And this is the final question, and this is a question that would interest me more so maybe than the last one would. But best movie from DreamWorks Animation Studios, and I'm hoping for some pretty great arguments on this one. I do like DreamWorks a lot, so we're starting with Brooklyn on this. What is the best movie from DreamWorks Animation Studios?
That would be Shrek. That would be Shrek 2. You're coming off of Shrek, won the inaugural Oscar for Best Animated Feature, and you made a better movie that I'm surprised didn't win, or I don't think it was nominated either. you have what's a great the premise of a great sequel where you tell a similar story but from a different perspective. You see that opening scene where they open the storybook, but instead of Shrek telling it's Prince Charming, and it's giving his origin as to why he is going to save the princess. And I believe that is a great starting point to what is a continuation of a great what could have been a great franchise.
And Jessica, your opening thoughts.
All right, for my pick for the best DreamWorks movie, I kind of had to reach back into closer to the beginning of their animation career. And this is one that kind of doesn't really feel like anything else that DreamWorks has done before or since. But maybe it's a style that they could go back to and kind of refresh themselves from, sequel hell. And I'm going to go with 1998's The Prince of Egypt.
All right. And those are both great movies, so this should be an interesting round. 5 minutes on the clock. Duke it out for DreamWorks Gold.
Jess, let's go first this time.
Okay, this movie is clear from 1998, but the visual style of it completely works even 20 years later. Even some of the visuals that you see in Shrek 2 are already outdated and just kind of a little hokey by now. You've got this simple, clear, coherent story, which God help them if they had tried to mess with the story too much, of Moses' rise from being a child adrift in the Nile River to the savior of his entire people. The animation style is, you can kind of see exactly where future DreamWorks movies have been inspired by the style of the animation in this movie. And I wish to God that any of them would have scores and soundtracks like this movie.
I would disagree. Where Shrek 2 has one of the best soundtracks of an animated film. You have songs from the Eels, Counting Crows, David Bowie, Limp Sync with Funky Town when they first come into Far Far Away. It gives us sort of a modern approach to Shrek 2, where obviously Far Far Away is something somewhat similar to Hollywood. Again, this is a continuation of the spoof genre, of that spoof kind of humor that made Shrek, the first Shrek, so popular, with the riffs on the fairy tale creatures. You see the big Gingy when he comes into the castle, kind of riffing off of Ghostbusters. You have a great cast of villain / anti-heroes. You have Antonio Banderas, Rupert Everett as Prince Charming, Jennifer Saunders as the fairy godmother. She's a bitch in that movie, and I love it. She's one of the great villains. With Prince of Egypt and that kind of Christianity route that they go, you have to stay very similar to that storyline, because if you go kind of askew and if you fudge certain things, then you get kind of slack for it. And I feel like with that style, you have to be like perfect, or it's forgettable, like Prince of Egypt is. Sure, it's a good movie, but if you were to go up to 100 people and say, can you name me 5 DreamWorks animation films, Prince of Egypt is definitely not one of them, whereas Shrek 2 is the more memorable film that has aged well. And you talk about bad animation and graphics that haven't aged well. Can you please tell me those in Shrek 2, please?
I'm talking about the references they make in their animation.
Such as?
Such as the types of shops that you see in Far Far Away that you don't really see going down what they were ripping off of, which would be like Rodeo Drive in Hollywood.
Like Burger Prince, like that kind of stuff, like Ye Old Foot Locker, or like that kind of stuff. That stuff works. You get stuff like that, and then like you get the part where where Shrek and Donkey change into the noble steed and the great human, and you have references to older shows like Sanford and Sons. I'm coming, Elizabeth. Donkey yells out as he falls asleep. When they're doing a chase scene in Frank Gomberg's factory, and Puss in Boots goes to grab the hat at the very last minute, a la Indiana Jones. You look at also another. You look at this movie, and it's about breaking tradition. You see John Cleese and Julie Andrews as the king and queen, and obviously they're not happy with Fiona coming back as an ogre. So John Cleese's character, who was performed great, is like, how am I gonna change this so that we can go back to the way things are supposed to be? And it's about change, and it's about embracing yourself. And yeah, you have great cameos in here as well. You have Larry King as the bar owner of the Poison Apple, who's in there briefly, but he's great because he's kind of like a pivot for certain plots. Like without him, you're not introduced to somebody who is Puss in Boots. Yeah, and then you see characters like the Big Bad Wolf and Pinocchio, Three Little Pigs. While they had side roles in the first movie, they come back to help save the day whenever Shrek, Donkey, and Puss in Boots are kidnapped, or they're locked away in that tower. And you talking once again about soundtracks. Great song. I Need a Hero.
Time. Wow, another great round by both of you. I'll be excited to see what the closing statements have to say for this round. And starting with Brooklyn again, your closing statements, ending out the main game right now. Give it your best shot. Let's do it.
Well, I'm sure Prince of Egypt is a great film. It is definitely a forgettable one of DreamWorks Animations. Shrek 2 carried on the legacy that was the first Shrek film and gave it a brighter approach, a fresh new look on that fairy tale riff that they had went with the first one. Again, a great supporting cast: Rupert Everett, Jennifer Saunders, Antonio Banderas, John Cleese, Julie Andrews. I don't even know who's in Prince of Egypt. Again, a great soundtrack with David Bowie, lip sync, Counting Crows, and Eels. And who's in your soundtrack? No idea.
And Jessica, closing thoughts.
All right, the winks to the audience that are replete across all the Shrek franchise films are already getting stale even by the time of Shrek 2. You talk about the lack of star power in Prince of Egypt. You have the likes of Ralph Fiennes putting the final touches on his resume to play Voldemort as the bad guy Farrah Ramses, Sandra Bullock, Jeff Goldblum, and Michelle Pfeiffer. And Shrek 2's soundtrack always has to rely on other people's stuff. All of the orchestral music in The Prince of Egypt is the God Among Men Hans Zimmer, and all of the lyrical pieces are written by the great Broadway songwriter Mr. Stephen Schwartz. They didn't have to rely on other people's music to get their point across. They wrote their own stuff, and it's like top 10 in my playlist.
And where's Prince of Egypt now? Where's Shrek 2 now?
Only one of these movies I own, so.
Didn't
I
even
own
know
both of those movies. It's a closing thoughts. I'm sorry. We're not allowed to go back and forth. But I do own both those movies, fun fact, because everyone was wondering. And a little bit of fact checking for this one. Shrek 2 was nominated for Best Animated Picture. It did not win, sadly, but it was nominated back in 2004. And I believe probably Finding Nemo won that year. 2004.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
But again, this was a great round by both of you. DreamWorks movies, very fun to stay. And I really like Jessica's choice with Prince of Egypt. That was a bold move. A movie that not most people would have picked. Most people probably would have picked like the Kung Fu Pandas or How to Train Your Dragon. But arguing Prince of Egypt was a gutsy choice, and I think she did a great job doing so. But Brooklyn's points about how it's a good movie, but having all these religious ties to it, it's kind of hard to deviate from it. And I think that's true for the movie, where it does represent that stuff well, but it can't make itself that unique or memorable because it spends all that time representing that stuff well. Where Shrek 2 did all those pop culture references with the fairy tales, showed amazing stories about how change and in the end accepting yourself, which is a good motto. While both movies are great, I think the forgettableness and how it had to follow the biblical ties more so would be in favor of Shrek 2. But that was a great comeback when you named off the cast and he said, who's in that? And you're like, Jeff Goldblum, Sandra Bullock, Ray Fiennes. But again, this is a great round. Brooklyn will be getting this point, and that means we move into the speed round 3-1, and a lot of things can happen in the speed round. It's anyone's game. Some people are amazing in the speed round, and it's just we're going to see what's going to happen in the speed round, and it's going to be very exciting. 30 seconds for the first, I'm going to say, question. Whoever answers first goes first. It's 30 seconds, and after those 30 seconds, the other competitor will go 30 seconds, and you have a 15-second rebuttal, and that's the speed round. 3 questions. If Brooklyn hits the first one, then he will win the game. But if Jessica hits the first 2, then we'll have a tie game, and the last question will be down to it. So Brooklyn is going to need to hit at least one of the speed round questions to win the game. But it's not over yet. Definitely not over yet. Speed round could go anyway. And starting it off with speed round question number 1, I'm going to say it off, whoever answers first. And that question is, you can take your time on this. What is the best horror movie of the 2000s?
Define, is that 2000s, 2010?
2010, sorry. 2010s.
Oh, it.
Sorry, what did you say?
Out.
Sorry, what did you say, Brooklyn?
It.
Oh, okay. It versus Get Out. 2017 had the year of horrors, so 30 seconds whenever you're ready and start talking Brooklyn.
It could have easily been left in the '90s with a great TV movie with Mr. Tim Curry, but it was brought into the 2010s with a great modern approach with Mr. Skarsgård as the role of Pennywise, the great kids. You have these great horror elements in it, and it is aged well, and it tackles the fears of every individual kid, and it sets itself up well for a great part 2. One of the highest grossing films of September.
Time. Film. Just get 30 seconds on the clock, arguing for Get Out whenever you start talking.
Okay, Get Out pretty well succinctly showed the amount of fear that an entire section of the American population feels every single day when they come across strange little people like that look like, me or Linus here. and it's so transcended its horror genre that there's Oscar nominations to prove it.
All right, and time. 15 seconds for Brooklyn. Final thoughts on this question?
Take away Jordan Peele from Get Out, and does it still get that Oscar buzz? Yeah, he threw in his comedy flair, but it is a pure horror movie. It scares the shit out of you. It's lacking in jump scares, but it has that the weirdness, the creepiness, the stuff that'll haunt you for days. Whereas Get Out, it was more of a social commentary, and it had a couple of jump scares, but the comedy at points definitely takes over.
15 seconds on the clock for Jessica. Final thoughts whenever you start talking.
It's probably easily the most originally concepted horror movie of the 2010s, if not anywhere before then. And there's not even nearly enough of the Key and Peele, Jordan Peele to be able to say, oh, take out the funny, what do you have? You still have an Academy Award.
Time. I think the part argued that Jordan Peele was in it and his humor added to it. I think she said exactly that his humor is not very noticeable in the movie, honestly. And if you that's not very noticeable in the movie, the Oscar acclaims the film got, how it transcended the genre more so than being scary per se, and just all it did to the one genre of the population. Well, it is an amazing horror film that also kind of transcend to more people that don't love horror. I think she made somewhat of a strong argument for the acclaim and just everything overall that Get Out has. But this is still a must get position for Jessica here, as we are 3-2 going in the next speed round question. And the next speed round question is, what should DC's next movie be aside from Aquaman?
Dark Knight Returns.
Teen Titans.
Dark Knight Returns versus Teen Titans. 30 seconds on the clock, and we're starting with Jessica this time, arguing for Dark Knight Returns.
Okay, I'll already go ahead and say it. I accede to the fact that we have already had an animated version of this storyline. However, it did do the storyline of Batman fighting Superman far better than even the director's cut of BVS will ever hope to. We want to see that kind of old, grizzled Batman who is completely has given up on anything and just wants to go out and kill a bunch of people. He's going back to take Gotham back by the... reaching down and grabbing Gotham back by the...
Brooklyn, 30 seconds whenever you begin speaking.
Cyborg is one of the best parts of the Justice League, although I don't think that they carry them on his own. If you add the people like Robin, Starfire, Beast Boy, Raven, that is a great ensemble, great ensemble that has comedy elements that would give a fresh a breath of fresh air for the dark and gritty heavy DCU. If they want to go lighter and router, Teen Titans is the road to go. Batman v Superman that a couple years ago, and they screwed the pooch on that. It's too early for a second chance.
Time. All right, 15 seconds on the clock. Final statements for this round.
The ending to the Dark Knight Returns saga gives DC the perfect out to get Batfleck the hell out of the universe. He's gotten to the point where I'm just completely fed up with his shit. And as far as Teen Titans goes, wouldn't the key word there have to be that they're teenagers? Isn't Cyborg like in his 30s in Justice League? Or are we going to have to go doing flashbacks?
Time. And Brooklyn, final thoughts.
They're already dealing with Ben Affleck's old age and Flashpoint. Supposedly, Teen Titans is the fit that goes well with the DCU in terms of tonal change. Again, Batman v Superman. They had that opportunity to do the Dark Knight Returns story, and it's too close. If the question was, what is the next DCU movie aside from Aquaman, and that's too close.
This is a tough one. I think you guys both made great options, great arguments for this one. But I think the strongest point argued in this round was that it's a bit too early for this film after Batman v Superman kind of just came out, and we kind of want the brush of fresh air with a lighter movie. And, well, Ben Affleck does kind of want out. They're sort of dealing with it in another way, and we just kind of saw the story aligned. But I think the strong points with Cyborg and how the movie could be just, it should represent the source material a lot better, and it could be a good out. But I think that was stopped by his point. So that means I am going to give the second speed round question to Brooklyn, and that will be giving him the win and a 4-2 game. And that was close. Every round I had lots of notes on both of you, just knocking down each other very well. And I think that's what both of you have great promise in this league, that you're both great at knocking down each other's points and defending your answers greatly. It just it depends on the question sometimes if there's stuff you're extremely passionate about, and sometimes just getting used to the format of the game. But I think I look forward to seeing both of you in the league again. So, Brooklyn, with your first W under your belt, how do you have to say for yourself? What do you think of it?
Very, very excited for this W. Every other league that I debuted in, I had a big old L. So to get a W in my first appearance was great. Jessica was a great opponent. She had some great points there. Definitely some questions that I was uncomfortable that I was definitely not confident with. And with the Bill Murray and the fucking Johnny Knoxville question. But you could definitely tell where she went with with Stripes and Dukes of Hazzard. There are some gaps in my knowledge that I have that I definitely need to fill. But yeah, it's great to get the one up on Jess now being up 2-1. But a great match by her.
Exactly, and Jessica, I loved your humor you brought to the game. Definitely was a fresh of breath to air. You're just calling bullshit out on these films in some points, which I think was amazing. What are your overall thoughts about this match?
Oh wow, finding words are hard.
Indeed.
Huh. But that being said, I love going up against Brooklyn. It's always a back. Well, with the exception of IG matches, it's always a nice little back and forth between the two of us. And you know what? I'm happy to lose to him.
But great showing nonetheless by both of you in this match. This was a very, very fun match. Great back and forth for the most part. Either of you, is there any person that you see in this league and you think I can take them down, or who would you like to challenge in this league, either of you, for your next thing? Anyone in particular you'd like to play against?
I would love. I don't know if the records match up, but somewhere on the line, I would love to take on Jake Marignoni. He handed me the first KO in singles Fairway Trivia history. So I have some revenge that I need to get out on him. But yeah, if the records don't match, then I will gladly knock out or definitely defeat whoever is in my way.
Yeah, I'm not entirely for sure who I would really want to face. At this point, it's just like, you know what? I'm just going to sit back here and let people come to me.
I see that indeed. And I'm sure we'll see both of you back in soon time, hopefully. And this was Movie Battleground. Make sure to watch all the episodes on the Worldwide Movie Game Network. Check out all the other shows on the network. We can see Brooklyn and Jessica go head-to-head again, and I'm sure both of you are on their shows quite often. So where can we find both of you on Twitter and just anywhere in general, Brooklyn?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Jack of All Trivia. I run two shows there: Jukebox Division, Everything and All Things Music. Also the Weekend Rewind, where we cover all the matches in Jack of All Trivia, as well as the Schmodown, and it's a Q&A. It's kind of our laid back talk show.
And Jessica?
All right, you can find me all over Facebook. I've got Twitter also. You can follow me on Instagram, but I don't really post shit on there. And you can also find me wherever you can find decent movie trivia, and also on the Full Metal Trivia YouTube page, where I'm usually Mark's co-host for Full Metal Commentaries on the weekends, which I actually have to get ready for one.
And I'm Linus Babcock. You can find me at Twitter on Schmodown Linus, or at the Linus Babcock. You can find me on the Movie Trivia Schmodown Facebook page, and join the Above the Line fan page if you're a fan of Sam Levine and Drew McQueenie, which you should be. It makes no sense why anyone wouldn't be. I appear from stuff then again, and make sure to watch Movie Battleground. We have great matches coming out this post-tournament season, and I will be returning against Chance Elson sometime soon. And yep, this was a very good match for both of you. Make sure to watch all the matches on WMG. And yep, this has been Movie Battleground. If you want to be in a match, just contact the Facebook page. Join the Facebook page at Movie Battleground. Join the WMG Facebook page, and we hope to see you there. And Movie Battlegrounds will happen with movie questions and debate. We don't really have a good outline, so I always try to come up with something when I host, and it never works out.
We'll see you on the battleground. Something like that.
I always try to come up with something, and it never works. So anyways, that's the match, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.